Hello and welcome to video number 2 of today and car launch number 6 ahead of the 2021 season. Today we have the Alpine A521. Personally, I'm not 100% sure why they've gone for A521. I think it's an Alpine specific thing, so a bunch of their rally cars were like A101, etc. Maybe 21 is the year and maybe A5 is the version, not 100% sure. But without further ado, we will jump straight on into the first angle that we have got from this car, and it is truly beautiful. Honestly, I think this is now my favourite livery so far of the 2021 season. This is just awesome looking and so much nicer than that first sort of show livery that they produced where it was black rather than blue and it just looked a bit bland and boring with the black and the white at the back. But this is absolutely gorgeous. As for a sort of tier list of the liveries so far, I think it is Alpine, maybe then AlphaTauri, and then I can't really remember the other ones. Oh, Alfa Romeo was actually quite good though, wasn't it? So I think those three are definitely at the top. McLaren and Red Bull there at the bottom, and then Mercedes is in the middle of all of that. But this Alpine is absolutely beautiful. Just another top-down view. We finally have another top-down view. That is 3 out of the 6 teams that have launched a top-down view, so we can really see that tapering of the floor. It's not really as interesting as the McLaren or the AlphaTauri. There are no particular angular changes like the AlphaTauri or the McLaren, but it is definitely interesting to see how they have gone about this. It'll be really interesting to see some shakedown videos as well to see if there is any extra small little details on the top of the floor, as I know they're not allowed to put slits and slots in the floor section anymore, but they can put like stuff on the top, so it'll be interesting to see what they've done with that. But from here we can definitely see the changes in the cape section that they have had on the car, and we can see it also clearly from the front angle as well. It's such a shiny looking livery. It's really quite nice. Also the airbox is different. They have slightly changed that up. It's slightly bigger than it was last year, and definitely that cape is enormous. And honestly, this car looks beastly. It looks so very good. And then the final angle to look at of the Alpine A521 before we get onto some 2020 comparisons with the Renault of 2020 is this side-on view here. And it just looks awesome. I don't know whether it's the renders that are really pushing those colours, and it may look slightly different when we actually come to some races, but honestly, this car looks immense. It's just a shame that their live stream revealing the car was not so immense. That was about 0.5 of a frame a second, whilst the audio was perfect. It was a little bit of a mess. But without further ado, we will jump on into some 2020 to 2021 comparisons. Obviously, the big one is the livery has changed. And yes, I have had to flip the Alpine one just horizontally, so they actually point in the same direction, as they tend to do them in opposite directions. It's really quite irritating. So everything is backwards, but it's technically the same as it's just a mirror image. Now the first thing we're going to start off with is the rear wing section. Now it is a little bit dark on the Renault, but it is definitely different here on the Alpine. It's got a nice large cutout section, but like I've said so far in the 5 previous videos, the rear wings tend to change quite considerably from race to race, so we can't really draw too much detail from this. Then the next thing to point out is their shark fin area just above the engine cover. It doesn't appear like they have done anything with this section of the car. It looks much the same. However, what looks to have changed is the actual contours of the engine cover and also the side pods area as well. So we can see it where it's all shiny here on the Renault at the top next to the short arrow, and we see that these shiny lines have changed. They're slightly different. I'm not sure how to describe it as I'm not an aerodynamicist, so I don't know all of the finicky twiddly widdly terms, but definitely just looking at the shadows and the contours, everything has changed, and especially around this area of the side pods as well. It just looks different. So very similar to Mercedes that we saw earlier today with their bulges in the rear of their car. AlphaTauri, Alpine have actually done something slightly different. So potentially there is a new developed power unit that's got something ever so slightly different in there this year. Then of course the one for the content is the barge boards area. I can't really see much of a change as the 2020 launch photo was just a little bit dark, so I can't really see all of the details. I'll have to wait for some shakedown photos to come out. and on this section here, it just looks much the same. They've still got the Microsoft logo in exactly the same place. And then from the side-by-side comparisons, we can move on into the front-end comparisons. And again, not a great deal has changed. I think the most significant thing is the actual nose. It has become a lot more pointy. It's no longer, or it's not at all like the Mercedes bulbous nose, and then it's not at all like the Ferrari square box with a tiny little pointy thing in the middle. It's definitely their own unique design, and it's now a lot more pointed this year. And definitely we can see the cape section is absolutely enormous on the 2021 Alpine. It's definitely an evolution of what we've seen here on the Renault. The Renault definitely didn't have a predominant cape in 2020, whereas now it absolutely does. Now, interestingly, like most of the teams previous, apart from I think McLaren and Red Bull, the bargeboard section around the side pods has stayed the same. The structure is all the same. It's obviously just different colours. That's about the only difference that has had so far on the front. And here again, it's possible that the rear wing has changed shape slightly, but I think this is more of a shadow issue on the 2020 image as opposed to the Alpine here on the 2021 image. It follows the same structure, but I think the shadows are making it appear to be a slightly different shape. But absolutely, this airbox on the Renault has changed. It is significantly wider. Even the back section going towards the engine is a lot wider, even past the entrance. So the entrance may be the same size, but past that it gets considerably wider. There's also a section underneath that looks like it's got a small little intake on both cars, which I never really noticed last year. I don't know whether all cars have got that, but that's something I've noticed specifically for this video. And then finally, something I haven't been able to do since the AlphaTauri and the McLaren launches is a top-down comparison. Now, annoyingly, they've released photos, or the 2020 launch was an angular photo, so I've had to angle the Alpine as well, so it does look a little bit strange. This probably won't be used for the thumbnail in that case. But straight away, we can point out the differences in the floor. It is nice, straight, with a lot of detailing on the 2020 car, and now 2021, it is tapered, and again, not a lot of detail, which is probably taken out from the renders, but it's interesting to see. And also, once again, to highlight the bargeboard sections, it is much the same. It follows exactly the same contours as well. It's just the Alpine is a little bit more shiny, but that literally makes no difference whatsoever. It's the same shape. It's probably got all of the same little components like we saw on the front end view as well. And likewise, the front wing hasn't really gone under much development, or at least here again, but it's also like the rear wing. It changes so often from race to race, from race specs and things like that, that it's not really worth comparing in too much detail just yet. But it is absolutely in these two images where we can see the massive differences in the airbox intake at the rear end of the car. So if I highlight this section just behind the intake at the top end of the airbox on the Renault, and then here on the Alpine, it is so fat towards the back. It is absolutely enormous. So whether they had cooling issues or whether they've got a new cooling section in this car, I'm not 100% sure, but it is looking enormous on the Alpine. And there we go, there are my comparisons drawn between the Alpine A521 and the Renault RS20, and also my first thoughts on the livery, which I think is the best one that we've seen so far of the 6 that have been released. We have a few more, like Aston Martin tomorrow. I'm very much looking forward to Aston Martin to see what they've done. That could rival this Alpine. At the minute it sits on the top, then it's a battle between AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, which I think Alfa Romeo comes out on top, then it would be Mercedes, and then I think it's a battle between McLaren and Red Bull, as neither of those teams have really done anything. I'll be very intrigued to see what that Alpine actually looks like on track, as definitely these renders look absolutely amazing. But that is all I've got for you today, guys. I hope you have enjoyed, and I will catch you in the next video, which should be the Aston Martin launch tomorrow.